SOP suggested items, sales order processing suggested items. Again, this was a new feature back in about 2019, I think. In Sage 200, there's a functionality that you can set up to show items that this customer has purchased previously, purchased frequently, or purchased as a preferred item. To show you that in practice, not all of the demos are as long, don't worry. If I go to a new sales order or a new quote, this works on as well. If you pick the customer, for this one I'll pick the most used customer because there's the most data. Before you even start adding your items to the order, there's a button called Suggested Items down here. It's greyed out if it's not turned on, but it's only a tick box in the settings to turn on. But if you go to Suggested Items, this up here is showing me previously ordered stuff. So in this instance, we can sort by sales order date. So imagine a customer's on the phone and they say, I bought 10 of these from you last month, can I have another 10 please? And that's all they give you. And you maybe have a stock item or a coding system that's quite specific, you know, things are by the millimetre or things are by the size and the customer doesn't know what they ordered. This is a good way of going back within the order and actually looking back and saying, I can see they bought those that month, I can see they bought it on that date, they bought 3, it was £300 a piece, and if they want it, you can double click it, adds it to your current order, but pulls through the current price from your price book. So it doesn't automatically pick the last price that they paid or the price that they paid on that last order, it pulls it through to it in that way. And then you could do that for as many of these as you want and just keep adding lines. And then when you're done with that, it takes you back to the sales order. So then at that point, you can add more items to the order or you can just do whatever you need to do with it and carry on with the order as you're processing it. Sales order analysis codes. Again, everybody's probably aware of analysis codes. You get 999, I think it is, to use in the entire system. For things like who's the sales rep, what's the customer type, supplier type, stock type, you know, where the order came from, everything like that. But what few people don't know is that you can actually set those analysis codes up against your customer, and then for every sales order you raise against that customer or against that supplier, you can do it against supplier as well. It pulls that through to the sales order, which then allows you to kind of slice and dice and filter and do your reporting based on your sales rather than actually from a customer level. So if you go to your customers, and let's just pick one at random, if I amend that account, within the trading tab, these are our analysis codes. So we've got an account manager, we've got a customer type, we've got a region, everything like that. Some rubbish ones, but the data's there against the customer. If I go and do a new sales order for that customer, if I go to the analysis codes, it's already pulled through the 2 that I wanted to. So I've already pulled through the sales area and the sales person from the customer account. Therefore, on the sales order list, when I raise that sales order, it's going to allow me to filter by those. So if I go to the sales order list, over here, we've got analysis codes. We've got that salesperson tab over there. To set it up, it works by having the analysis code set up in the first place, but inside sales order processing and maintain analysis codes, you pull through the analysis code you want to use, and then you say, I want to get the default value from the customer codes analysis code, basically. That's how it pulls it through. The web portal. We can actually spend some time looking in this now if anybody wants to see it. When you're in Sage, if you go to the settings cog, go down to the bottom and click show web portal in browser. Caveat to this, if you're inside your network rather than outside, but it can be set up to work from outside, it takes you through to this. So I've got 2 companies set up. Ask me to log into this. If you're outside of the business or on a laptop that isn't authenticated to log into Sage 200, it comes up with a username and password prompt at that point, so you can set this up for ones that aren't domain-based or anything. And this menu, as Gareth said earlier, is kind of what Sage hopefully is going to look like in the future. You've got this menu list down this left-hand side. If you click into sales order processing, you've got the ability to view your sales order list. If you click into purchase order processing, you can see your purchase order list. And you can do pretty much the same things as you did before. You know, you can filter things up here. So if I look for all orders by AB Cookers, it shows me all orders by them. If I then change that and click on a filter at that point to show me all live orders by AB Cookers, you can start seeing it in that way. If you click on that and then you click on view, it takes you into the purchase order, gives you the order number, tells you whether it's completed, whether it's needing authorization, tells you what stock item it is. If you then click on that item, it shows you which warehouse it was coming from, what price it was bought at, everything like that. And as you can see down the left, you can do that for a number of things. I think the useful ones, which I'll focus on, are entering supplier invoices maybe. That's a quick and easy task from that side. Doing some of the bank transactions perhaps. Amending accounts, viewing accounts, or even when you're out on the road, like say viewing a supplier's balance or something. But definitely sales order dispatch. So in this confirm goods dispatch box, hopefully somebody in the warehouse has maybe got a piece of paper that's the picking list to say the goods has been picked, or they've been told by another system that something's ready. They can type in the number or click on the drop-down list, find that sales order, click display items. Sod's law, that doesn't need dispatching. Find one that needs dispatching. and there are items that need dispatching. And again, a lot of info on here, to be fair. So you could even do things like stock takes through the web portal, so within stock control, or even view stock balances. So again, in stock list, this is my stock list. I've got my actual quantities. You can do this column selector to actually pick which columns you want to view on here as well. So rather than just actual quantity, free stock quantity, all of those things. So it's just another way of using and looking at the data the same way as you would do in Sage 200, really. Within the menu structure, you can actually create shortcuts to other applications or other things that you use. And I did this for one customer, and I think it was quite good fun when we did it. So down at the bottom, I've created a new menu item called document search, or called extra features. Within there, put document search in, and then this loads the Spindle document search tool, and then within there, I can start searching for a customer or a document number or a purchase order number, and it will go away and find me that document. It's just time saving, hopefully, that you'd have to click out of Sage and go back into Sage. But if you're looking for a transaction or you're searching for some documentation for it, it's a quick way of getting to it. And then when you're finished, you just back in and you're carrying on working. Just to show you how easy that is to do, I've done it for Word as well. You won't want to do it that way probably, but you can click on a Word icon and it actually launches Word for you. And there you go, you're in that and you're doing it. You can go to an amend customer account or amend supplier account, and you can actually go and set up an alert such as this account doesn't exist anymore, use this one instead. Always get a purchase order number, make sure they get payment up front. This person is a good friend of the boss kind of thing. It's a good one I always use. Make sure you give them a good price, that kind of stuff. And whenever you're raising a sales order, a quote, a purchase order, or anything like that to any one of those customers, it pops up and shows you that before you're doing it, and then appears as a little bell at the side of it so you can actually see what's going on too. In the top corner of Sage 200, there's a little question mark. That's called Desktop Help. That's your kind of free support tool as such. If you're in a screen and you're not really sure what's going on in that screen, be it kind of a supplier invoice entry screen or a purchase order screen, if you click on that question mark in the top right-hand corner, it takes you straight to an internal web page. Don't need web access, and it shows you what's going on that screen and gives you some information about what you need to be doing. Hide accounts is an ability. In the past, people used to use a bit of a shortcut. They'd put a customer or a supplier account on hold, and then you'd create a filter to say only show me non-on-hold customers or suppliers. There's now, and it's been in the system for a few years, but there's a way of going in and actually hiding that account from the list views and hiding it from your selection views when you're entering a transaction for them. It doesn't delete it off the system, but it keeps it hidden from your view and just keeps your data tidy. So in conjunction with running a report like show me customers who haven't placed a transaction in the last 2 years, you can then use that filter, amend all those customers that have done that, and maybe hide them to get them out of the list and get them out of the way. And then they're still there in case they come back and place another order with you, but it slims your customer list down or your supplier list down to keep it that way. User login status is again up in that top right-hand corner. I saw this as a feature in one of the next versions of Sage, which is quite nice. I think always one of the ideas portal, I think, that we're going to auto log people out or auto clear disconnected logins. I'm sure you've all seen it where somebody's stuck in the system or it's crashed or something like that, and then that user is locked into that screen. It means that somebody else can't get into it really and do whatever they're doing in it. And I think there's a way of clearing it manually at the moment using this user login status button, but in the future it looks like there'll be an ideas hub to clear that down. Favourites, I'm sure everybody uses and everybody knows how to use. Apologies, I can't show you these, by the way. It's a good way of putting the things that you use more often, obviously, into a shorter, more customizable list. But I don't know if everybody knew. You can create folders within your favourites. It's a way of you organising your tasks into certain things. So obviously you've got sales ledger, you've got sales order processing, you've got stock control. If your favourites are in that other menu, rather than you just chucking them all in one big bucket, you can actually filter them and amend them yourselves. You can put them into different folders. You can also then, and I know this is very much like designing a menu for new users, but I only learned the other day that you can actually export those favourites and re-import them for other users going forward. So I never knew you could do that. You can, on the list of your favourites, you can export it, create a file, and then re-import it for somebody else. So if you're looking at somebody else's system within the office and thinking they've got some great favourites, I'll never be able to replicate that, you can just get them off them and import them into yours. Saving report criteria is, again, when you run a report, it asks you to select all your criteria, such as a date range for certain customers, for certain stock items, for certain analysis codes. If you really like that data and that report that you get at that point, but it's taken you a while to pick the right settings, I don't know if anybody's aware, but once you've selected all those criteria, you can save that and then reload it. Any Sage 50 users in the past, that's a bit like a memorize and recall, but it's a way of saving that criteria, meaning that whenever you next run that report, you can actually pull that same criteria up. And if you're clever with how you set it, rather than doing a date range, say for the last month, rather than for between this date and this date, it will always be up to date looking at the last month's transactions rather than the date that you put in. So that's again a useful tool. And preferences, top right hand corner again, there's a settings cog, you can go into that. And the number of people I see use it, and it frustrates me, maybe it's just because I'm a bit OCD, but the little green box that pops up to say, you've just saved this order, or you've just created this customer, or you've just added this stock item in the bottom right-hand corner, you can disable that. You can turn it off, and you don't then have to see it anymore. And you can also go into that preferences and set your colour scheme, whether it's light or dark, whether you've got bigger lines between the rows, everything like that. So you can do things like it. Another good one that I can't show you, unfortunately, is I've got a few others at the bottom, which I'll just say a couple of them because they're really good. You can actually have multiple instances of Sage running on the same machine. Don't know if you're aware, it doesn't take up any more licenses. So once you've got Sage open, if you click the icon again and reload it again, it will allow you to log into another screen or another company or anything else, have them side by side on one monitor or two monitors. You can actually be in two databases at once or two companies at once doing similar tasks. It's quite useful if you need to kind of reference across different places.